What's up, YouTube? Kristo here, and I've got another video for you, another big one. Um, gonna be checking out the Amouage line for men today. I'm actually gonna have to break this into two videos. I tried doing it before, and it was just way too long, and I still didn't have enough time to get everything in. So today, I'm gonna look at what I call the first two eras from the Amouage for men. I'm going to talk a little bit about prices, availability, a little bit of backstory on the house. Then the second half, which will probably come out in a day or two, will be the third era. And I'm going to focus a little bit more on packaging, caps, bottles, etc., things like that, as well as talk about some of my favorite and least favorites from the entire house. So be sure to check that out a little bit later, hopefully just a couple days or two from now. So let's get into this because I know it's going to be a long one. Amouage is a true niche house from the Middle East, Oman to be specific. Their tagline is the gift of kings. And until quite recently, just maybe 5 years ago, Amouage was exclusively a retail only fragrance line. They did pop up in tester form now and again on eBay, but they were still nearly the same price as retail. The only draw about it was a lot of the eBay sellers would ship worldwide, which if you didn't have Amouage at a retail outlet where you lived, you basically couldn't get them. So that was kind of the only draw, even though the prices were very uncomparable. They didn't come with a box, like the really nice decorative boxes, and they didn't come with this cap. They had like a plastic sleeve. It was definitely different than the kind of decorative caps they come with now. As of about 2010, 2011, when I first became aware of Amouage, they were retailing for around $300 for the 100 ml bottles like this. There are 50 ml bottles, but they are nearly the same price. I believe $300 for a 100 ml like this, and then a 50 ml is like $250, which to me doesn't make any sense why you would buy a 50 ml when for just $50 more you can get double the juice. I think the 100 ml bottles look nicer as well, but that's just my opinion. Then sometime around 2013 or so, they flooded the gray market, and you could get them quite easily for around $200 or less. Then fast forward about a year later, and they entered the kind of super cutout bin discounters in the United States, and they were going for 100 ml with box for $150 or less, and they are kind of in intervals available at that price, which in my opinion is just out of this world. That's like what you pay for Serge Lutens at retail. It's slightly more than you would pay for Dior or Hermes at retail price, which in my opinion, a lot of these just, are so much better than, your higher end designers. To each their own, of course, as I say. And there are going to be things from Hermes that I like more than things from Amouage, but when I have things like this available for that price, it's not even a comparison to me. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through them chronologically, the earliest first, and then I'm going to give a little description, talk about them, kind of go through the eras, and then I'm going to cut. And then the second video will have the third generation with all the other stuff I mentioned before. So the earliest men's release from Amouage that is still in production is Gold from 1998. It is a musky, animalic, powdery, floral fragrance. It gets a lot of hate. It gets a lot of people saying it's not for me, which is kind of a polite way of saying this sucks, but I don't want to say it sucks. For me, I'm more in the it sucks, but I don't want to say it sucks category. The only thing I can really compare it to that I'm overly familiar with is Kuros from YSL, in the sense that they're both very animalic, powdery, clean, with floral aspects to them. They're very different, but that's just kind of to give you an aspect of what it is. I've actually had samples, like official samples of gold twice, and both times it's kind of like, wow, this is outrageous, but the powder in the dry down just ended up killing me. It's too much. I'm not a person that's generally into powdery notes, and gold is just unrelenting powder, like outrageous powder. Okay, 2002, we saw the release of Dia. This is a citrus floral with a leather base, and I have to admit, this is one of the Amouage for men that I am quite unfamiliar with. I have tried it a few times, but nothing really stood out to me to make me want to try it again or to get to know it further. So I can't say much about it. It is definitely under the radar. I do not see many people really talking about it. Probably of everything that gets talked about, Dia is probably pretty much at the bottom. Um, the only thing I can really think of that kind of is down at the bottom as well is the next released Silver, also from 2002, but I happen to like this quite a lot more. And I have heard a few people talk about it, so that's why I would say it's kind of like a little step above Dia in popularity. It has a lot of vetiver, orange blossom, and plum. To me, I think it's quite nice, and the reason I got to know this a little bit better was a subscriber asked me if I was familiar with it because he was able to get a bottle for a really good price where he lived. Um, Said I wasn't, but I'd check it out next time I was at the boutique, and I made a point of trying that specifically and ended up really enjoying it, and it kind of jumped towards the top of my Amouage list in terms of, trying again. And I really like it, and I definitely want to sample it a bit more. Just kind of check out the nuances in it, of course, before I potentially buy it. Next release, and actually this is part of the reason I wanted to do this video. People don't really think of Amouage as being a summery or springtime fragrance house, but actually the earlier generation, which I'll kind of talk about in a moment, are actually very fresh, clean floral fragrances, very different from the mid and third generation that we have. CL was released in 2003 and has, in the last year, been announced as being discontinued. And I'm a very big fan of CL. I like it quite a lot. I've not been able to pick up a bottle of it yet, and it's kind of like, now that I know, definitely it's discontinued. It's been taken off the Amouage website. I've heard from the sales assistant at the Amouage boutique in Toronto, it's been discontinued. I've heard from a few other reputable sources that it's been discontinued. So it's kind of like, yeah, I need to get a bottle now, or I probably will not be able to. It's got peach, sandalwood, and some herbal lavender in the opening. I'm not a fan of lavender, especially when it's really herbal, but it's not overwhelming, and it's kind of balanced really nicely with the kind of watery, fresh, clean peach. And then you get like this kind of really nice dry slash creamy sandalwood, which is a really nice scent. I think it's great for spring and summer, and I definitely need to pick up a bottle. And the last fragrance in the early era, the first era, probably one of the more famous or popular fragrances from the men's line, Reflection from 2007. It is a floral that is very powdery, that has some shiny, bright, citrusy notes, especially in the opening. The opening I enjoy. I actually have a little decant here. I like the opening, but the dry down, kind of like gold, is just way too much powder. Way, way, way too much for me. I actually have a bottle of Reflection in Indonesia, but I did not bring it with me because of weight and size allowance. And I ended up bringing these four with me, and I left that one back. I brought a decant. The decant is nearly finished, and I can honestly say I probably will not pick up another bottle unless I find one for dirt cheap, which is possible. I probably wouldn't buy it again, especially when there are other Amouages that I like so much more than that I would rather have. So reflection to me kind of ends the first era. And after that, it kind of changed. It got a little bit more diverse. They got a little more daring. We're doing some different things with the notes. They were kind of mixing it up, not just doing powdery citruses and florals and stuff like that. Going in order that Amouage lists chronologically, which I'll kind of address a little bit later because there is kind of a weird instance where they mention them out of order, or at least as best as I can tell. The first from the new era, as I can call it, is Jubilation. Jubilation is a legendary fragrance in the YouTube community, the online community in general. It is very beloved. Don't mind the pun, but it was probably the first high-end niche fragrance to get really hyped in the fragrance community. At the time, it was not really available discounted, or at least in most of the world. It was about $300 for a 100 ml bottle, which just kind of blew the lid off the old price caps of what things were that were being hyped. And even today, there's not much over $3 per mil at 100 ml that are being hyped like this. There's a few I can think of, but really not many compared to like just how everyone was talking about this years ago. Jubilations from 2008. It has sweet notes, resins, and oud. Now, the sweet notes are meant to be blackberry, or supposedly. And there's people that like, oh, the blackberry's amazing in this. I can't honestly say when I sniffed it's like, oh, blackberry. It could easily be blueberry or some other sort of kind of luscious, juicy, sweet berry. I'm just going to say it's a sweet berry note because I really don't find it to be that distinctive, but I do like it. There's a lot of resins in here that are very sweet at times, whether that's a layover from the sweet blackberry or whether they're sweet resins in general. And there's oud in this, and it's funny because I've heard people call this barnyard oud. And to me, I get nothing barnyardy out of this in the least. It's a very safe oud in my opinion. It's very likable. It is definitely more of a younger gentleman's Amouage fragrance. I think it would be very pleasing to kind of newcomers. I think it would be quite easy to wear for younger guys. I like it, but I see myself kind of growing out of it because I'm kind of seeing this now as more of a juvenile, sweet, easy to pull off fragrance. I like things that are a little bit more daring, with things that are maybe a little bit more bold. Nonetheless, it is a great scent, and I really do enjoy it. The next from the house from 2008 is Lyric. And Lyric is what first drew me to the house. Kind of around when Jubilation was really getting hyped up, the notes didn't overly appeal to me. I wasn't really looking for the sweet thing. I wasn't really looking for heavy resins and oud. And of course, like I said, I didn't get to try a lot of these, or maybe if I didn't say it, I didn't get to try a lot of these until well after the hype came out. So when I first started looking into the Amouage house, Lyric was the first thing that really jumped out at me. Primarily because that's right when I first started getting into rose, and I thought, if Amouage is one of the best high-end niche houses in the world, which I did think at that time, before a lot of these newer ones have come out or before I was aware of other houses, theoretically, it must be one of the best rose fragrances in the world. And I ended up buying it. It was my first Amouage bottle that I owned, and I loved it. It was actually quite different than I was expecting. What worried me a little bit about it, let me read the notes here quickly first. If I didn't mention, it is from 2008 as well. It has rose, lime, and vanilla. Now, I'm not a fan of vanilla. I don't particularly like sweet notes, as I've already said a few times. But I love rose, and lime can be really great. But the idea of all three of those combined sounded really weird and kind of put me off. I was really hesitant to pick it up. I got it and I was really pleasantly surprised. It smelled so different than I was expecting, but I loved it. It's kind of a clean, soapy, smoky rose with some really unique lime, like really bright green lime in the opening. I can't say I get a heck of a lot of vanilla, a little bit in the dry down, but not enough to scare me off for sure. Next, from 2009, I love this a lot. I picked this up quite recently from someone in the Facebook community. This is Epic from 2009. And this is one of the things when I hear people say that this is a barnyard oud, it makes me laugh because this is nothing compared to some of the real Middle Eastern based barnyards out there. And this being from Amouage men's line, the by far most oudi, this is still pretty tame, but amazingly elegant for a barnyard oud fragrance. I picked this up in about October, November, and I have easily used about 20 to 25 mil out of this. When I wear it as well, I usually carry a 5 mil atomizer and I often freshen it up. The base is great, but the opening of this is just stellar, out of this world. I love Epic so much. It's just like exactly what I'm into at the moment. Kind of a more classy, sophisticated, mature gentleman kind of thing. This along with like Guerlain's Derby are just like exactly what I'm into at the moment. I think it's a great release. Notes for this include oud, incense, resins, and leather. Fantastic release. I love it. Next, from 2010 is Memoir, and I actually put this in my fall 2015 list. I think this is great for that occasion. I get like this really herbal opening, and then it dries down into like this smoky, ashy dry down that is fantastic. Now you're going to hear me talk about smoky, ashy dry downs again in the second video, so kind of remember that as well, because Memoir, I think, kind of set the precedent for that. Memoir, if I didn't mention, is from 2010. It has herbal notes in the opening, which is actually kind of what put me off. There's not just mint, but basil and wormwood. And I would honestly say basil is my most hated note in all of perfumery. I can't stand it. Mint is up there as well. I really don't like it. There are instances where I can really enjoy mint, and then other times when I just absolutely cannot tolerate it and I have to wash it off my skin. Wormwood, I'm a bit indifferent to, but just that super green herbal opening really scared me. But you also get tobacco, incense, bit of leather in there perhaps. But yeah, when I tried this, when I went to Singapore, I actually tried them for the first time at the boutique. I went to try Epic because it was getting a bit of buzz on YouTube and Facebook. And I ended up trying Memoir and being really, really, really impressed by this and kind of forgot about the others that I tried. So great scent for fall, even winter for that, Memoir. And the next one from 2011 is Honor, and this recently appeared in my spring 2016 video, my top picks. And this is a fantastic, super, super, super smoky, slightly mentholated sandalwood fragrance. I find it to be just so relaxing and soothing and calming, and it wears so well when it's just a little bit cool out. I don't have to worry about reapplying too much. I think to me it is a great spring fragrance. Okay, that's kind of where I'm gonna, oh, sorry, I should mention notes for this include incense, geranium as well, which kind of gives that mentholated vibe, as well as sandalwood, as I have already mentioned. So that's gonna wrap up part one. The first two eras, the kind of early floral era with the kind of middle, more creative, more diverse era. And then the next era, I'm gonna look at interlude and kind of everything after that. There is definitely a string that I see going through Interlude and pretty much all of the new releases, but I'll mention that in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Let me know your favorites from the first two eras, what you think of them, what your best buys are, maybe a few stinkers that you think of from the first two lines. Maybe you're not a fan of gold like a lot of people. Let us know, comment down below, and I'll see you again soon.